Hello and welcome again to the 2014 Candidate Forum for the Republican primary on June 3rd. Today we will be talking with candidates for the Cullman County Sheriff's Office, and those candidates are Tim Creel, Matt Gentry, and Sheriff Mike Rainey. Mike Rainey has chose not to attend this forum today. We'll ask questions and we'll rotate the beginning of each answer between the two candidates today, and we'll start with our first question. Will go to Mr. Creel. There seems to be a lot of different ideas about what the role of the sheriff is. So if you would tell us what the duties are that you would perform and the duties you'll delegate to your deputies.
Thank you for letting me be here today. Constitutionally, the duties of the sheriff include running the court system. Running security for the court, serving of civil process, running the county jail, and then protecting through patrols and investigation the unincorporated areas of the county. That's constitutionally. There's a lot of duties and responsibilities of the sheriff, caveats to that, but those are the constitutional duties of the sheriff.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Gentry, what are your thoughts on the duties of the sheriff and the duties that you would delegate?
Well, again, the duties of the sheriff, the main responsibilities is for the running of the detention center, the jail, and civil process. Those are the first two responsibilities, with the security for the courtrooms for the judicial part of our legal system. But here in Cullman also, the sheriff is the administrator for the sheriff's office. So in sense, that means that they run the budget, and then they set the tone for the sheriff's office. Main tone is for serving the needs of the citizens of Cullman County. Everything from the patrol division here at the sheriff's office to enforcement on the lake, through traffic enforcement, serving warrants, and even working all the way down to narcotics. So the sheriff in Cullman has a lot of roles compared to some other sheriffs, not only in the state of Alabama, but other states in the U.S.
Okay, thank you. Our second question will begin with you, Mr. Gentry. As you look toward the election, if you were elected, what are some changes that we could expect regarding the upgrading or adding new technology to the department?
Well, I believe that it is very important to continue to upgrade technologies within the law enforcement realm itself. One of the things I think needs to happen is an integrated system at the sheriff's office through the district attorney's office for emailing case files. Other agencies around the state of Alabama, it's a method they use. So let's say I make a felony case this morning, I'm on patrol, I can email that case file to the district attorney's office to process warrants in a faster manner. I think they need to utilize the computer systems that are in the car more often. That's for reports and things that maybe they're not doing at this point. It's a great tool that we have, but it has to be utilized to be successful. And I also think that same system has to be utilized in the correctional facility for when deputies bring people in after they've been arrested to work with the jail staff to get that stuff in the system faster so we can get deputies out on the road in a faster, timely manner.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Creel, if you're elected, what changes would we expect to see with you?
The biggest change you would see would be the internal organization of the sheriff's office. To be effective as a sheriff, you have to have a staff of subject matter experts in their field that you can delegate authority to. That's the biggest change you'll see. You can't micromanage an organization such as the sheriff's office and it be efficient. It just doesn't work. And I'll give you an example of that. If a patrol deputy needs tires for his patrol car, the way I understand it works now, he has to clear it through his field supervisor, which is a sergeant. That sergeant has to go to the lieutenant, who has to go to the captain, who has to go to the chief deputy, and then it has to filter back down. Sometimes that can take a week or a week and a half. When that deputy needs patrol car tires, he needs them now. So you have to have people in key leadership positions that you can delegate authority to. That's the biggest change you'll see.
Okay. The next question would come back to you, and it's along the same line. Are there other changes as far as we kind of moved into this question from the technology question? But so you can go either way with technology or other changes.
I'm in agreement with Matt about the technology, the latest technology. We need to utilize that technology. However, I also think that a lot of times as law enforcement, we rely too heavily on technology and we forget our basic skills. We have to go back and rebuild that foundation of the basic skills. Intuition and common sense goes way further, in my opinion, than all the computer technology in the world.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gentry, are there any other changes or improvements you'd like to see as sheriff?
Well, it boils down to leadership. I had a sergeant major tell me one time in the Marine Corps when I became a non-commissioned officer, there are no bad Marines, only bad leaders. And I think that is the responsibility of the sheriff to set that tone for leadership within the sheriff's office. And you get experts in each area of the sheriff's office. You know, you must have an expert in patrol, you must have an expert in investigation, you must have an expert in the jail. Somebody that helps you run that organization proficiently. Because at midnight, it's not the sheriff out there stopping a car, it's a deputy. But they have to be trained, and that's one of the most important things as a sheriff, is to give those deputies that opportunity through training and education and your supervisor's leadership to be successful. Because it's very important to the citizens of Cullman County that when a deputy responds to their house, that they have the most professional and proficient law enforcement officer that responds to help them with their needs and their problems. And as a sheriff, that's one of the main changes that I think needs to happen, is within the leadership of the organization and the mindset that it is our job to serve the citizens of Cullman County. That has to be laid for that foundation, but it comes from the top, and it has to be set by the sheriff, nobody else.
Thank you. We're going to take a commercial break now, but we'd like to encourage you to stay tuned for more. And we also remind you that today's forum is available for viewing on channel2cullman.com and on YouTube. Thank you, and stay with us.
As a local auto owners independent agency, we are dedicated to assisting you in your time of need. We live and work right in your community, and we're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Fortunately, emergencies don't happen every day, but when they do, we're here to personally see you through. For life, home, car, and business insurance, call us, your local independent auto owners agent today.
Overwhelmed by home refinancing offers from telephone solicitors and direct mail advertising, and then find you're not qualified for a specific plan? The Mortgage Center, a hometown lender, compares the rates from all home loan lenders and the qualifications of the various government programs to find a plan best suited to you. The Mortgage Center helps Cullman County people purchase and refinance their homes.
This is Pat Newton. Call us today and let us tailor a loan program to your specific needs and requirements.
Pro Audio and Video is your church sound, video, computer, and lighting system experts. We've been installing and servicing these systems for almost 30 years. We've worked with small churches, large churches, and all those in between. We handle all major brands like Mackie, Crown, JBL, PV's Architectural Acoustics, EAW, Shure, DVX, Behringer, and Audio Technica, just to name a few. We have a full service repair shop and free evaluation and estimates. So give us a call today and we'll get the job done.
Wells Turner Family Pharmacy is a proud supporter of local city and county athletics. You can keep your money right here in Cullman because Wells Turner Family Pharmacy is locally owned and operated. At Wells Turner, you won't have to wait long to get your prescriptions filled, but while you're here, you can send a package by UPS, buy a gift in the gift shop, pay your phone bill, or develop your photos using our DKS photo kiosk. Wells Turner Family Pharmacy. We are a Health Mart community pharmacy.
Hello and welcome back to the 2014 Candidate Forum for the Republican primary on June 3rd. Today we're speaking with the candidates for the Cullman County Sheriff, candidates Tim Creel and Matt Gentry. And the next question, we'll start with Mr. Gentry. If you would, discuss with us about the subject of security on our school campuses.
Security on our school campuses is probably, in my opinion, one of the most important roles of the Sheriff's Office today because it's the protection of our children. And as a father, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and there's nothing that scares me more than my children. I think that every deputy at the school system must be trained and educated to school shootings and must be prepared to protect our children. As your sheriff, one of the first things that we're going to do is look at making sure that every school in Cullman County, that's every feeder school and every school, has a full-time deputy assigned to that school. Because if you look at the national school shootings, from beginning to end, school shootings are done in 7 minutes. And the only person that can stop that school shooting is that resource officer that is at the school day in and day out there to protect our children. But to do that, you must have proficient law enforcement officers there that are trained and educated and equipped and prepared to stop that active shooter at the school. So it's a very important issue. I think it's an issue that we at the Sheriff's Office need to dedicate more time and effort to, whether it's training or adding equipment for those school resource officers. So it's a very important issue for me.
Okay. Mr. Creel?
Our children are our greatest natural resource. We have to protect them. We have to protect them in every manner possible. And as law enforcement, that responsibility falls on our shoulders. I agree with Matt that every school needs a deputy, but not just any deputy. If I'm elected sheriff within a year, I have a plan laid out where all the school resource deputies will also be special operations, SWAT, SRT, whatever acronym you want to use, qualified in those schools. That does a number of, that's a big advantage in a number of ways. When I was at the sheriff's office here, I ran SRT for a number of years. I was actually a founding member of the SRT team. And one of the biggest problems we had was training time. Because we pulled from investigation, we pulled from patrol to man that team. If you just look at the high schools in Cullman County, that's 7. That's half of a team. During the summertime when the schools are out and we can train in those schools. Along with that, we also have a plan in place for a comprehensive crisis management plan for each school, and it's individualized per campus. This will include evacuation routes, rally points, LZ zones, which is helicopter landing zones. It'll be a finite plan for each school, and we will practice that during the summer. And that will allow our training time because half of the team will be school resource officers.
I'm going to follow up with a question. You know, the biggest threat to our children on our campuses is probably not the threat of a gunman, but the threat of drugs. Talk a little bit, and we'll come back with you, Mr. Gentry, about the training that our officers would have to identify and eradicate drugs on campuses.
One of the things, you know, like you said, drugs is one of the most important issues that we deal with day in and day out in Cullman. Over the last 10 years, I've taught over 400 drug awareness and drug trend schools within our school systems, the teachers, college professors. And it's something that our kids are used to. Well, I don't agree that they should be used to that. And I think as the sheriff, not only do we do DARE, but we bring narcotics agents in to hit and initiate programs with 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, getting into those high school classes, because guess what, those are important too. And I think we're at this point in our careers in law enforcement, we're failing to educate our children as they grow up to the reality of drugs. One of the things that I think we can do, and it's very cost effective, is get every school resource officer certified as drug and alcohol counselors. Because sometimes these kids will come up and talk to the resource officers, and maybe the resource officer doesn't have a lot of knowledge, and they'll come up and talk to them about their parents. They'll say, hey, my mom and dad are using meth or heroin, and we need to know what to do. Well, I want those school resource officers to be trained to handle those situations to help guide that leadership for the schools. Another issue is we have 5 canines at the sheriff's office. Hey, there should be dogs going through those schools, around the cars, out in the parking lots, weekly, monthly. You know, let those kids know that, hey, we're not going to allow you to bring drugs to the schools. Because if they know that, hey, there's an opportunity that they're going to be arrested or there's going to be a canine come through their vehicles out in the parking lot, hey, they're not going to do it. And it's going to keep away a lot of the people that will bring drugs onto the schools. But it starts, for law enforcement, educating our kids to the reality of drugs. If they do this, what they're going to face and the penalties if they bring it to the schools, and what they're going to face within the system. But we have to attack it on all realms. So.
Okay, Mr. Creel, your ideas on drugs on campus?
Well, there's an old saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and I'm a firm believer in that. But it goes back to the coordination and the cooperation with the school system. The sheriff's office and the sheriff is in charge of the sheriff's office, so it's the sheriff's duty to reach out the hand and to the school system, to the superintendents. And the ideas that I have, like drug testing all the athletes, I think that's a good idea. But when it comes to enforcing drug laws against students, when it's misdemeanor or felony, there has to be an understanding between the sheriff's office and the school system on which direction to take. I'm not advocating slapping them on the wrist and letting them go, but there has to be a happy medium between the school system and the sheriff's office. We don't want to run the school for them as the sheriff's office. We want to help them with the drug problem, and I agree with Matt about the use of the canines. I don't see that happening now. We have to use those canines, but the biggest part of that is coordination with the school system.
Okay. Thank you. We'll start now with our 5th question, and it'll begin with you. If a citizen reports a suspected crime near their home, what information would you require in order to send a deputy or an investigator?
If someone calls the sheriff's office, and I'm the sheriff, and request a deputy, that's enough information for me to send a deputy. It's nice to have all that other supporting information, you know, what they're doing, what kind of car they're in, why you're calling. But in a lot of cases, when someone witnesses a crime, their adrenaline level goes through the roof, and really all they can say is, I need help, I need a deputy, or if they call 911, we're going to send a car. We're going to send a deputy when someone calls.
Okay. Mr. Gentry?
Same thing as a sheriff. I mean, when a citizen calls, we have that responsibility to respond to their needs, no matter what it is. I was out the other day in a community, and I had an elderly lady that said that she called about her neighbors were playing music at about 3 a.m. in the morning. She was trying to sleep. Her husband has a medical condition, and the music was extremely loud. She called, and they said, well, there's not a noise ordinance in the county, so a deputy did not respond. Well, as a sheriff, I mean, I understand that, you know, there's no noise ordinance in the county, but as your sheriff, we're going to send a deputy out there and go out and talk to these folks and say, hey, listen, you know, there's an elderly couple across the road. Turn the music down if you don't mind. I'd appreciate it. And that's just what we do to serve the needs of people. Now, the information that needs to be provided, again, a lot of times there are those situations where, you know, we need a lot of information, but sometimes we don't. The main key is having your dispatchers that are very well trained and very well educated to dispatch those calls. You know, if a guy calls in and he's screaming for help and he says, I'm at the intersection of Kenner Road 700 and 703, well, the dispatcher should know, hey, I know where that's at. It's on the map. You start sending deputies there. You know, you don't try to say, well, you got to give me 10 pieces of information before I send the deputy. You know, you go ahead and get deputies en route. And a lot of time, as they're en route, you'll start gaining more information. So at that point, the dispatcher can start giving out and relaying information as it comes in to the deputies. And I think that's important. I think it's important to log it into the system so everybody can see it, because the way the system's set up now is once it's logged in, every law enforcement officer in Cullman County should be able to see that, whether it's the city of Cullman or Hansville. That's why we have that system. But the main priority is getting deputies to the scene in a quick manner for the citizens.
Okay, thank you. Now, last question will again start with you, Mr. Gentry. Are there any recommendations that you would like to make to the state legislature regarding existing laws or proposed new legislation?
Well, one of the biggest issues, and I think we've faced this in a lot of sheriff's elections, is the food bill. After taking office, one of the first things I will do is meet with the legislators and the county commission to work out a very productive manner for this issue of food bill, which is taxpayer money, and how it relates to the sheriff's salary. I think it's an issue that we need to take off the table to get our focus back on protecting and the citizens of Cullman County, enforcing the laws. I mean, that's the real priority of the sheriff. But one of the other issues, and I get this from the drug side of my career, is that we need to go back to the legislators and look at the sale of ephedrine and pseudoephedrine. I mean, it's been proven that the states that have made it prescription only have had about a 98% reduction in labs within their community. Well, I know within our community we're averaging 70, 80 lab recoveries a year. Well, that's the ones that we're getting, and then you think about all the other environmental hazards that go along with that. I think that's a very good bill to get the lab production in our communities off the streets. If they don't have the product, then they can't manufacture meth, and that ephedrine or pseudoephedrine is the main ingredient for that production. And I think the sheriffs need to band together with all law enforcement and say, hey, we need to solve this problem, because it affects us not only on the enforcement side of things, but if you're a business owner and you have rental property, it's going to affect you too, because people's going to be cooking meth in your rental property, and then it's something that you have to face with that environmental hazard. So those are my main two priorities that I would see is taking office, meeting with the legislators about.
Okay, Mr. Creel, if you was elected, is there any proposals or discussions you'd like to have about existing laws or new legislation?
The main one is, like Matt said, it's taking the ephedrine and putting it on the prescription-only list. Oregon, when they started it, since they've enacted that law, it's been an 80-something percentile reduction in the seizures of locally manufactured meth with local meth labs. What that does, like he said, was it takes the availability away from pseudo and ephedrine, which is the main ingredient. You have to have that to make the meth. If you take that away, you can move your resources that you're focusing on that problem into other areas, such as the large influx of trafficked methamphetamine from the cartels and other substances that they traffic. So it allows you to move your resources. That's the primary issue that I would like to address with the legislatures if I'm elected.
Okay. Thank you both. Okay. We're going to take another commercial break. We want you to stay with us. We'll have closing remarks from our candidates for sheriff this year.
Baker Pro Audio and Video has the video security systems to cover all of your home and business concerns. Wired, wireless, indoor or out, we've got you covered. Standard and high-def cameras, day and night vision, and remote pan-tilt zoom cameras are also available. Whether you need a small 4-camera system or a larger 30-camera system, we've got the one you need. Remote viewing from your home computer, smartphone, and iPad is also available. Whether home or business, call Baker Pro Audio and Video today for your free quote. 256-739-0388.
Wells Turner Family Pharmacy is a proud supporter of local city and county athletics. You can keep your money right here in Cullman because Wells Turner Family Pharmacy is locally owned and operated. At Wells Turner, you won't have to wait long to get your prescriptions filled, but while you're here, you can send a package by UPS, buy a gift in the gift shop, pay your phone bill, or develop your photos using our DKS photo kiosk. Wells Turner Family Pharmacy. We are a Health Mart community pharmacy.
Overwhelmed by home refinancing offers from telephone solicitors and direct mail advertising, and then find you're not qualified for a specific plan? The Mortgage Center, a hometown lender, compares the rates from all home loan lenders and the qualifications of the various government programs to find a plan best suited to you. The Mortgage Center helps Cullman County people purchase and refinance their homes.
This is Pat Newton. Call us today and let us tailor a loan program to your specific needs and requirements.
As a local auto owners independent agency, we are dedicated to assisting you in your time of need. We live and work right in your community, and we're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Fortunately, emergencies don't happen every day, but when they do, we're here to personally see you through. For life, home, car, and business insurance, call us, your local independent auto owners agent today.
Hello and welcome back to the 2014 Candidate Forum for the Republican primary on June 3rd. Today we're speaking with candidates for the Cullman County Sheriff's Office, candidates Tim Creel and Matt Gentry. And we'll go to our closing remarks, and they will begin with you, Mr. Creel.
Again, thank you for letting me be here. I am a candidate for the sheriff, for the office of the sheriff in Cullman County. I grew up here, went to school at Fairview High School, still live in Cullman County. I've got 27 years law enforcement. 18 of that was at the sheriff's office. My experience included, I was a founding member of the SRT team. I was a patrol lieutenant, investigator, worked narcotics. 24 years in the military. I was in the infantry unit in Cullman the entire time. I've got one tour in Iraq in 07 and 08. I'm not running for this office for any kind of social status or any kind of egotistical issue or anything like that. I want this job because I want to serve the citizens of Cullman County. And I appreciate your support and your prayers, and come out and vote on June 3rd. Thank you.
Mr. Gentry?
My name's Matt Gentry, and I'm a candidate for the office of sheriff here in Cullman, and I would like to thank Channel 2 and y'all for hosting this forum. I think getting information out to the public is very important. But I tell everybody that, you know, I'm born and raised here in Cullman, and this is where my wife, Susie, and I will raise our 2 children. And I want everybody to know that there's nothing more important to me than my Lord and Savior, my family, and my home. This is the place that I want my children to be raised, and I want them to be raised in the same place that I was raised in. And then I think that foundation for service has to start with our families. And for me, it started with my family many years ago. And it was that same foundation for service that led me to joining the United States Marine Corps. And through the Marine Corps, and I started my law enforcement career 15 years ago, where I started out in the detention center, working in the jail, moved up to the patrol division, and then in early 2000, I moved into the narcotics division. At some point, I was appointed in 08 to director over the drug task force, and in 09 I had an opportunity to go to the Drug Unit Commanders Academy in Quantico, Virginia, and this was a great honor. In 2011, I had an opportunity to go to the District Attorney's Office to work as an investigator assigned to the Drug Enforcement Administration in Birmingham, with Cullman being my county to cover. And I tell everybody, I think one of our greatest failures in law enforcement is the failure to educate citizens to the new drug crimes and new drug trends. And as your sheriff, one of the things I think we need to do is bring stability to the Cullman County Sheriff's Office. I think we need to set a new standard in drug enforcement where not only do we go after the lower level drug distributors, but we go after the upper level drug traffickers in our community. I think we have to be more responsive to the needs of victims within our community. And we're going to do that by establishing a victim service unit within the sheriff's office that will maintain contact with the victims on a daily basis and help them through the judicial system. I think that we currently we have 209 registered sex offenders that are allowed to operate on the honor system. I don't believe in letting sex offenders operate on the honor system. And we need to rebuild the relationships with other local city and county governmental agencies. But most importantly, I believe that every citizen in Cullman County must be able to speak with the sheriff, and as your sheriff I will have an open door policy so I can hear the needs and the concerns of the citizens of Cullman County. But I believe it's an honor and a privilege to be the sheriff of Cullman County, not a right. And I think sometimes as elected officials we've lost focus that it is our job to serve the needs of the citizens of Cullman County. It's not the citizens' job to serve our needs. And I would just like to let everybody know that I will run the sheriff's office with honor, commitment, and integrity. And I would just like to ask for your support and your vote on June 3rd in the primary election. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been the 2014 Candidate Forum for Republican Primary on June 3rd. Please make your plans to go out and vote on June 3rd. We today, of course, we're talking with the candidates for the Cullman County Sheriff's Office, and we appreciate Mr. Creel and Mr. Gentry coming in. We want to remind you that today's forum is available for viewing on channel2cullman.com and on YouTube. We also invite you to watch our next candidate forum, which will be on Monday with the candidates for the State Representative District 12. Thank you and have a good day.